Hello, and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
Oh boy. Drove all the way down to Modesto, a good old 2-hour drive, to go to the fabulous Brennan Theater, which only seems to impress me even more, because when I show up on Tuesday, apparently it's $5 movies all day long. How fucking sweet is that?
You sent me a text about that while I was at work. I'm like, yeah, that is fantastic.
Well,
Here it's $14 for a matinee. So
yeah, it's mind-blowing, because nowadays it's like almost, it feels like movie theaters are only going up. So if this place is going down, I mean, it's fucking $6 for a matinee on regular days, $8 at nighttime, and then $5 all day long on fucking Tuesday.
And I just got this. Oh, that's so good for you. Yeah. Look at me.
Too bad I don't live in Modesto again. It's like one of those ones like, man, that's worth living in Modesto all in itself.
Just back to Modesto for
that practically
theater.
Pays for itself to live there if the movie tickets are that cheap.
Laura just gives you this look and like, we moved our lives for this. Like, yes, we did. It was totally fucking worth it.
How did you find an apartment on the top of the movie theater? I don't know. I just did. All I have to do is once a day go down and check the projections, and that's it.
That sounds like a 90s sitcom right there.
It really does. Just like, well, what do you do? I live on top of a movie theater.
The projection boy. Yeah.
The projection boy sounds like something else. Like,
that's
projection boy.
That sounds like it could be a number.
Projectionist, you come out here. Nobody's watching. We got the movie going. You know how it is. You want to be in the movie business, right? Yeah. Well, you gotta start as projection boy. And what does projection boy do? He gives a blowjob to. Yes, he gives a blowjob to the projectionist while he sits there and watches movies over and over and over again until I hate movies. That's why the boy was
Lars
invented,
von
though.
Trier
Because
presents
projectionists would end up hanging
projection
themselves.
boy.
They would take film, tie it up, and hang themselves in there because they were sick and tired of watching the same fucking movie for so long. I mean, at least nowadays movies change in and out a little bit more often, but you're not stuck fucking watching Tom Cruise and Top Gun for 2 years. Every day of your life, 6 times a day.
All that Maverick and Iceman back and forth says, shit, maybe a dick in the mouth ain't so bad. Fuck it. Tom Cruise and fucking Val Kilmer are into it. Why not? I'll give it a shot.
Be a boy, and I can keep doing this. So that's why they invented the projectionist boy.
The projection boy. That really sounds like some weird, fucked up, like, comedy that not comedy, some weird, fucked up drama that even IFC wouldn't take. Like, no. Get that shit out of here. That's too fucking weird for us.
The guy was going to hang himself and then decided that it was okay as long as there was a boy there to suck his dick. Projectionist boy. But speaking of another fucked up movie, well, sort of, in a sense, Tusk. Which was fantastic. I loved it. I kind of knew that going into it, but sometimes just seeing it puts everything together. And it was one of those ones, like kind of like how you explained before on the last podcast. You sort of already kind of know everything going into it, just because if you listen to this podcast, if you're listening to Kevin Smith and any of his podcasts, you pretty much know the general basis, the kind of story. You almost even know how it ends, sort of, except for that very last ending. But that's, I think, what just makes...
You mean the post-credit thing?
No, not that ending one, but I was just talking about, like, where literally fucking Justin Long and, what's his name?
Haley Joel Osment?
No. The...
Genesis Rodriguez?
No, not the...
Michael Parks?
Yeah, Michael Parks. And they're literally both in a walrus suit fighting each other.
Well, that actually was in the podcast.
No, that's what I mean, though. That was in the podcast.
That was that when I said there's two things that kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I love that movie. I thought that movie was awesome. But the two things that kind of took me out is when Johnny Depp went to go interrogate, when he has a flashback to interrogating Michael Parks when he's pretending to be like a retarded guy that lived out in the woods.
You didn't like that too much?
Well, it wasn't so much the scene. It was more of just like the ridiculous over-the-top French accordion music that played throughout it. It almost didn't fit the rest of the movie. It almost kind of like, that part kind of took me out of the movie. It didn't kill it for me. There's still some funny things in that scene and some funny conversations. But went from being like, yeah, there's this guy tied up in a basement that's being turned into a fucking walrus and this and that. This is just like, there's really two wacky, funny accents going back and forth for a while, and then with this really over-the-top, like kind of like parody music going on at the same time, It didn't kill the movie for me. I still really liked that movie. That part was a little over the top, and the second part not as much over the top for me. You think it would be, but the part when they're actually both in the walrus suits slapping against each other, it was more like, I can't believe he fucking did it. I'm just gonna give him credit just for going this far. I mean, it seems a little weird and out of place, but on top of that though, I'm just gonna give him credit just for fucking going there.
See, I like that part. I thought that was awesome. There was only one part of the movie to me, and I just thought that like, it was just the pacing was a little slow, and it's like before that Johnny Depp scene where him and Michael Parks are talking out the cabin, is when he's sitting there in the restaurant talking to like the other two main characters, and that part I think it just goes on for quite some time. It's just the pacing slows down there, almost just to let Johnny Depp kind of chew the scenery, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it does. Is it like, cause it's almost like a 10-minute scene where he's just sitting there, kind of talking, doing his thing, wearing a funny hat. Of course. Mm-hmm. Johnny Depp, this must be in his contract nowadays. Like, I have to wear a funny hat. They don't always have to look super ridiculous, but it's got to be funny in some ways. Like, don't give me a fucking baseball cap or something. It's got to be, something that not an average Joe would wear.
Because that's a fake nose he's wearing in that movie. And I liked in one of the podcasts, Kevin Smith said Johnny Depp says, hey, look at this nose real quick. What do you think about it? He's just like, I don't know. He's just like, doesn't it look like a big fucking dick? And he says, because you look, there's a big blue vein that goes through part of it. And he says, like, do you want to change it? He's like, listen, no, I want to keep this fucking nose. So, I just thought that was pretty funny right there.
That's pretty sweet.
Jack Sparrow.
But no, like, that was the only part to me I just felt like it slowed down right there. And then, like, I think when it gets to Michael Parks and them and Johnny Depp at the cabin, then it kind of picks back up again, because I like that part a lot.
That's all the best stuff, when they're, like, locked in the cabin, and then there's also...
No, I said about the Johnny Depp and Michael Parks part, where they're...
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of, like, retarded, and it shows these... Michael Parks is just kind of, like, playing these different characters just to kind of, like, get his, like, walrus friend back and then kill him over and over again.
Yeah. That right there, I mean, I like... No, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not that scene was bad it was just more like, it's just one of the weirdest things, and I feel like such a nitpicky bastard, but for saying it, but it's just like the French accordion that played throughout. It was just so I don't know. It just
kind of going a little too Canadian, or almost maybe like French Canadian.
Yeah. I just thought that kind of took me out of the movie, because at no other point in that movie. Maybe they're just playing like that Woody Allen-esque like French accordion throughout the rest of the fucking movie. All right, fine. But it was just in that one part where they're already both like chewing the fuck out of the scenery. So that was the one part where I was just like, okay, that was a little weird, but whatever. The rest, it's still a great movie. And then the part with the walrus suit. I wasn't expecting Michael Parks to actually dress like a walrus at some point and start fucking slamming into Justin Long fighting him. But then that was more just...
I think that was just amazing, though. It's like that.
I'm going to give him credit for going
That's
there.
What I liked about it. It's like, I liked how it just kind of like, it went there. And it did. Because that's like the thing is like, too many movies, like, they play it too safe. And that's when you get a movie like this where it's like, just do it. And that's kind of like what the whole like motto of Tusk sort of is. He just goes...
And that... Go ahead.
I just said that's kind of where I ended at.
Okay, and the part where like he was actually be talking to Justin Long when he actually is in the walrus suit, and he's like swimming with him. It's all very kind of awkward and kind of creepy, and he's all like almost like being his friend. Then he starts dunking his head underwater and shit, trying to like almost drown him out,
Yeah.
You'll learn how cruel man can be. He just like dunks his head underwater and like let's.
This is one of these movies like. It would just be so amazing if it just even get nominated just for an Oscar, just so they could show clips of it. Like when they cut together really quickly, and it just shows him, talking like in the suit all nice and fancy, and then just kind of cuts to him with the walrus, and then just cuts to him in the walrus suit fighting.
It might get like a nomination of like Michael Parks for Red State, like you will become a walrus. So they're just slapping like that's how walruses fight, like slap their necks together and they kind of like claw each other with their tusk.
There was one part like I thought would have actually made like a sweet. It kind of gives away the walrus suit. That's the only downfall to it. But I think for a movie poster, it would have looked really cool. Is when Michael Parks is just kind of leaning back on Justin Long, like he's like a fucking easy chair or something like that, and talk to him, and it's kind of this two-shot. Like when I saw that, I was like, that. Even though the only thing is it gives away the walrus suit. That's the only downfall. But like right there, if you've already seen the movie, I think that'd make a really sweet movie poster.
Maybe by like DVD or Blu-ray release, they might release like posters or like a it wouldn't surprise me, like a poster or something of Justin Long in the walrus suit or something.
Yeah.
But like I think that would be a really the plus you also kind of see he looks like, even though he's like this big monstrous thing, he's still kind of scared and trying to back away from him when he's leaning against him, like, oh yeah, I miss this walrus, you know?
Yeah. No, I thought it was fantastic. It was funny though, at the movie theater, you know, there was only about less than 10 people in there, but 3 people walked out during the movie.
What part did they walk out on?
A lot of times when you watch people walk out, I think like it's not like it was after like he was put in the walrus suit, but it wasn't like they walked out during that. It's like they almost walked out like when Johnny Depp came on the screen or something like that. But I don't think that has anything to do with that. I can't remember exactly. I just remember a couple people walked out. Like, yeah, 3 people walked out. I was like, really? Fucking. And you almost want to just yell like, fucking pussy, and like chuck a soda can at their head or whatnot.
Well, I'm gonna give Kevin Smith a lot of credit for making this movie, just because a lot of times he'll say like he'll have a joke. Like, for instance, here's the thing. Like, I'm going to go back to another movie he made, like Clerks 2. Mm-hmm. He has that joke where he's all like, you know what would have made, like, Lord of the Rings a good movie? As if all the hobbits just started fucking sucking each other off at the end. Just for having the balls to fucking go there. Give him the Academy Award for going that far. Because no movie's going to do that. You know, if you have the balls to go something as that edgy as that, you deserve the Academy Award. You know, regardless of how good the movie is. Uh-huh. And that's what he just kind of actually he'll have jokes like that on Smodcast. Like, he's like, fuck you, let's stay in the movie. You know, and he actually kind of stopped and said, you know, I'm actually going to do one of those ballsy endings that like people that I always make jokes about, but I'm actually going to do it. So,
you mean for Tusk?
So yeah, something you got to give. Well, through Tusk, yeah. I mean, the fact that it ends with like,
well, that's like
just the pure concept. The guy gets sewed into a fucking walrus suit. Then at the end, he says like he's joking, like it's never going to happen, like saying then he gets his own walrus suit. They start fighting, and it just like you're laughing like, yeah, that would be pretty weird. But he actually does it.
He even puts that. I like how he cut that part from the podcast into like the credits.
Yeah,
where they talked about that. No, I thought the one thing I thought was kind of like really weird was the actual ending of that movie. It was just like, oh, they just kind of like they leave like they take him to like some abandoned like exotic animals like sanctuary. And they put him out like in this like little teeny like fucking pool that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in years. Mm-hmm. And like it's just one of those ones like, if he could get put into the walrus suit, even though he might not look perfect, can't they like put him back together? Don't they have the technology?
He'd probably be all like no. He'd probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I'm not sure if they chopped off both legs.
He could be in a wheelchair, or he could live as the walrus in like the fucking like, 10 by 10 foot pen.
Well, no. Didn't he? I don't remember. Did he lose both legs or just one leg? I want to say he still had one leg.
Is because really to me like gore-wise, it's really not gory whatsoever, or it's really like I think the walrus suit's kind of a little disturbing, but like there's 3 scenes of kind of like I think sort of like showing somewhat violence. There's the part where it shows Justin Long with his leg cut off, but it doesn't show him get it cut off. It just shows it when he's sitting there in the wheelchair and he lifts up the blanket. It's like, oh fuck, And then there's the part where Michael Parks is sewing, and you don't really know exactly what he's sewing. You know he's sewing the walrus suit, but you don't know if he's sewing it on Justin Long or what. And then it kind of goes to like a wide shot, and there's Justin Long with like the little T-Rex arms being sewed up.
And then there's also like there's like flabs of skin like hanging. You saw like bloody flabs of skin hanging like on like the wall on like little clips. And then you saw his foot sticking out of a bucket of ice.
Yeah, and then next thing you know he's in the walrus suit, because really for me, being somebody who's watched a lot of horror movies, like
it's pretty light on the gore.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like, because really it actually doesn't show anything. It doesn't actually.
The most it shows is when he starts like knifing, when he starts like, I guess, for lack of a better term, tusking Michael Parks.
Yeah, that's probably actually the most violent part in it. Which I'm not saying like that's like a complaint. I'm just saying like that part, like in a sense, like there was nothing really disturbing in it. I mean, like the walrus suit itself was kind of like, it was very interesting. I think it looked really cool,
Well, what was most disturbing about the movie, it's not so much because I was a little nervous about going to see this movie. I mean, I wanted to go see it because it was Kevin Smith's next movie, and I love the concept. I was a little worried going into it, though. It was going to be something like, I mean, obviously he took just a little bit of inspiration from, say, something like Human Centipede. Uh-huh. And I was afraid it was going to become like this, like just a gore fest of somebody just tied down, getting like sawed up and hacked at for like a 10-minute period. I was a little worried it was going to be something like that because I don't like those kind of movies, but I was willing to give it a chance just because I like Kevin Smith that much. He's one of my favorite filmmakers and one of my favorite like writers and comedians. So seeing it, and plus, Kevin Smith's basically the reason we do a podcast. It was maybe,
Exactly.
But on top of that, though, I was like, I'll just take it, give it a chance, and see. I'm curious enough about it, and I was glad to see that he only just kind of showed enough.
Yeah.
Gore. Not even gore, but enough just to get the point across. Because I mean, I was expecting at some point to be a 10-minute period where he's tied up, screaming, just getting sewn up, and we'd be seeing a lot of detail, see bone crunching or something. But then it just ends up, oh no, we see him get a little deformed, and then we just cut to the walrus suit, and that in itself, it's like the writing. And like the scenes with him and Michael Parks and him in the suit itself, and plus the moaning he would have to do because he had no tongue.
Yeah.
That to rely on that rather than just like here's like some fucked up violence.
Yeah.
That is way more harder to pull off than just showing fucked up violence, in my opinion. And I think he did a great job. And I want to say that like real quick, like that part, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Justin Long first realizes his leg is missing. He's all kind of still fucked up on drugs. He's like, oh, what happened? And he's just like, you lost your leg. And he's like, what? And even though he's drugged up, he's like, doesn't make any sense. How does it fuck? He's still kind of, he's still kind of believe to an extent whatever happens. Then Michael Parks is like, I'm really sorry. You turn around and be trying not to laugh in front of him. He'd be like, I'm so sorry. You turn around, be like, trying not to laugh. And even though it's kind of funny, it's so unsettling at the same time. It was just the little things because he was like very like, it was almost passive aggressively kind of like kidnapping them. He says like, I gotta go. And he like moves. He's like strapped to the wheelchair. He's just like, oh, the doctor said you have to stay in the chair, and kind of chuckles and kind of like moves by, So it's just like, oh, the doctor said we have to take your phone,
He's just almost going very lightly about it too, like that's like you lost a leg, Shit, this happens. I was stranded for 7 years with a walrus.
Yeah, and that almost the fact that he wasn't like, I got you. The fact that he's just almost making these very bad, half-assed lies and kind of like lightly chuckling about it is so much more sinister and so much more creepy.
This is one of those movies, though, I will say, it is totally not for anybody movies. It's one of those ones,
definitely.
If anybody who like likes Kevin Smith and likes the podcast, it's like that's almost who it's made for,
Even people who just like, I'm going to go by like stereotypical Kevin Smith, like his first 5 movies. I'm not even sure if all those people would like this.
No,
movie.
you have to be kind of more like modern Kevin Smith, I guess. Because it sounds kind of weird, but whenever I go back and I watch special features of sometimes older Kevin Smith movies, just himself, he's changed so much, but you kind of forget about it because you go back and you watch him talk in his older ones, he's like, it's like a completely different Kevin, So there is almost this like pre-Kevin and then like post-Kevin.
Yeah, well, he does seem a little, even though he says whatever he wants, he seems a little bit more reserved. But now, ever since he started smoking pot heavily,
he just seems like he's just funny and free. Like,
well, he makes himself crack. He makes himself crack up a lot more. He'd say funny shit in a very kind of monotone, kind of like I don't give a shit, whatever. He'd say it like that back in older Kevin Smith videos. And now, if you look at him though, he's kind of like making himself crack up more. He immediately goes to like jokes like, don't kill me, I'll suck your dick, don't you? He immediately goes to that all the time. You know what I mean? Even though he like smokes pot now, he's way more energetic, and he says it just kills that barrier for him,
Yeah, because it's one of those ones you watch old Kevin Smith interview, he almost seems serious, like compared to new Kevin Smith, almost just like he's like telling you like, your wife just died. But it's kind of funny. Right now, it's just like I don't know, it's just
tagline for his next movie. Your wife just died, but it's kind of funny.
This sounds really weird. Just including the weird love triangle and then the walrus suit. The characters in the movie kind of remind you of, Justin Long being me, you being Harry, or what's his name? Henry?
I'm the fat one.
Well, you have blonde hair. And then Genesis Rodriguez being like Laura.
Let me tell you, I never fucked Laura.
Well, that's what I mean. Like that's what I said. Like
had some
just
nice
including the weird like love triangle and the walrus suit and things like.
Did.
Because I just remember it's like they both have a podcast. And one of them has a Mexican girlfriend. They got they got a bunch of Batman pictures hanged up on the walls and whatnot.
I did kind of cross my mind a little bit. I did kind of think of that a little bit. I know you've been good to Laura, so that, but I know what you mean,
just including like, I'm not saying like 100%. I'm just saying just like, and like I feel like.
I just see you looking at Laura like that part reveals in the movie, like, you fucking didn't, did you? Like, it's a movie, it's not you on the screen. Oh right, yeah. I got confused. It's just all so similar. I'm sorry.
I guess because it was once like, there's no movie I could think about that's like, oh look, there's two guys that are like podcasters.
One of them just happens to have a Mexican girlfriend.
Yeah, it just happens all like kind of pan out. Like
one happens to be thinner, one happens to be a little thicker. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're just kind of funny, telling dick jokes and shit, and talking about movies and crap they find on the internet.
That's a good point. Yeah, there is. I did notice that parallel. I was like, that's kind of trippy.
Sometimes you look at those ones, you're like, oh, that looks like they have like a radio studio, fucking fancy. Like,
yeah,
not that fancy, but I guess if you gave us a couple nice looking tripods, it would look just as fancy.
I guess the second, whenever I see like, when I see like podcasters and I see they have a full on kind of like microphone that kind of hangs down with the adjustable arm and all that, and the pop filter and all this stuff, like the soundproof room, I'm immediately kind of like, those guys must be really professional. Like, it could also just be a studio picture, but who knows,
Yeah. Well, at the moment, we're just going for our kind of like portable studios, but
yeah, it works.
Someday it'd be cool to have one of those fancy schmancy ones where you can hang up fucking Batman posters of yourself. And
one of my favorite podcasts, Crack.com. They like Jason Pargins, who writes as David Wong. He's the guy that wrote John Dies at the End. He's a really popular online writer. Whenever he's on the podcast, he's over the phone. It's horrible audio. I'm like, well, if Cracked Podcast can get away with it, I think
he doesn't do it like.
Yeah, he does
like
it over
just
the
like
phone.
A call-in caller on a radio show.
It sounds like that, yeah. So if they can get away with that, shit, I guess we can get away with kind of like this, like make this little like shitty like microphone I got for $70 over at Best Buy.
So, that's actually pretty nice. That's not really a shitty microphone for $70.
$70. I was being kind of shitty. It's not really a bad microphone. It's not like, I don't know. It's kind of like that mid-level microphone. It's like kind of like not like super professional, but at the same time, it's like better than just being kind of like a little simple, I guess, little like $30 one you get like at Radio Shack.
Plug into your iPhone or something like that.
Yeah.
Because even those ones, because I always think of like, because Kevin Smith used one of those ones when he did those back-to-back podcasts when he was on the plane with like the guy who owned Virgin and then the guy who created Twitter.
CEO of Twitter, yeah.
Those are one of those ones where like, probably if it was like anybody else, you'd probably be like, I don't know if I want to listen to it, but since it's kind of like, because the quality I remember was just like okay on those, because that's where I could kind of tell. I knew for a fact that he was just probably using like, he might have almost even been just using the microphone off the iPhone itself.
Yeah,
I remember the quality on that one was almost like pretty darn good. You could still understand it, but
Mm-hmm. Well, you take it every so often. That was like every episode, yeah. But
yeah, I mean, those two were actually like really good podcasts, anyways. Or I guess it was one single podcast, but.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Tusk for a second, I want to say I thought that part when you actually see the walrus suit for the first time, I kind of like how they slowly just kind of showed little parts of it. You saw the tail, you saw the fin, you saw part of his back. Then it has, like, as he's leaving the room, it has the zoom out and the zoom in on him. It almost felt
they used the 70s zoom a couple times in that movie, I noticed.
Yeah. I want to say, I mean, it's kind of obvious because he likes him a lot, but I think he even said this himself. But I noticed kind of like near the third act, the movie got kind of more David Lynch-esque. Mm-hmm. Kind of like how just the way it was cut, the way how when they're fighting each other, how they now whenever I hear that song Tusk, I'm gonna think of that parallel action at the very end of the movie. Whenever I hear Tusk by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You know what I thought was really cool though is that Christopher Drake did the music, because I didn't know that. He's the guy who does all the music in the Justice League DCU movies. He did Dark Knight Returns. He did.
That makes sense. I think it's cool. That's pretty cool right there.
I thought that was sweet. I mean, he did Batman, Assault on Arkham. He did the Green Lantern ones.
He did Dark Knight Returns. He interviewed him on Batman on Batman.
Yeah, I want to say out of those DCU ones, I think he did like 80% of them.
That's cool that he's kind of like he's getting more like he's getting more like people you're fan like everyone has their fans, I guess, but I guess he's getting like, you know, really obscure people that would like have a fan basis rather than just getting the big name that would sell, you know. I think that was pretty cool that he got Christopher.
Well, because I think it's one of those ones that's like,
when I think back though, it does sound kind of like his work though.
Because because it all kind of ties in, you know. I mean, that's almost like the Fat Man on Batman section of it, you know. I mean, then they had like, I thought another thing was really cool is when they were at the restaurant with Johnny Depp and Genesis Rodriguez and Haley Joel Osment. It was called the Gimli Slider.
Gimli Slider.
I thought that was awesome. And that's one of those ones like, unless you really listen to podcasts, you wouldn't like get that. But small things like that.
Even like kind of like some of the conversations, they seem sort of like Kevin Smith-esque like conversations from a podcast. Like when he goes to meet that one, like this, like that movie's a horror comedy. Yeah, I put it more in my horror section, but still, it's a horror comedy. There's too many funny things in it for it not to be a horror comedy. But there's the part when he goes up, Tusk. There's the part when he goes up when he's first getting into Canada, and he goes that there's the one guy, the guy that works at the airport.
Oh,
and he's just like, and he's all like, you see that flag? It's, what do you call it? Like maple leaves? Like, it's red and white. You Americans are red, white, and blue. You sometimes look at the downside of things.
There's no blue on that flag there, I tell you.
Yeah. He says, like, something you want to do is you don't want to tell. He gets, like, he's very friendly with them. He says, like, I don't watch hockey. He says, like, you get your hands off the table, please. You know? He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, something you don't want to ever tell a Canadian is you don't watch hockey. They take it personally. He says, I thought all you Canadians were nice. He's like, oh, no, we're not nice. We're just optimistic.
There's a difference. There was one part where I thought, like, almost like, I thought he was going to say this line, and he didn't. But you know when he was in the bar, and he was on the phone, he's talking, he's like, I don't know where I am. I'm in this place, it's called, and it's kind of panning, and it shows these hockey sticks and an H. And then he goes, it's called H. But I thought he was going to go like, it's called H. I really have no idea what that stands for, but he didn't say that. I thought he was going to say it just for the fact that, like, because it slowly shows all this hockey stuff, and then it says, like, an H, and then, like, but yeah, he didn't mention that line, but still, made me laugh.
I thought, there was a lot, there's a handful, like, Ponder Rock was what he called the little, like, place he was marooned on. He made a little, like, that's where the walrus, that's where he was in the walrus suit, that he called it Ponder Rock. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to a lot of Smodcasts, that was something that he took from a podcast right there. A little bit of his own life as well. So it's kind of fun. If you did listen to a lot of Smodcasts, there were a lot of little things you noticed. One thing I thought would have been a little cooler, though, something I kind of like in these kind of horror films, like I guess these entrapment movies. I guess in some way it's a cliche by this point, but I do like these kind of moments. I guess just adds that kind of so close, yet you've just barely missed it. Is I kind of wish, like, and that would have also been cool to give Ralph Garman another part to an extent. Like maybe like another cop or someone who's searching for him goes looking and he stops by the house and then he stumbles upon like Justin Long is trying to get his attention. And it could be before he's in the walrus suit possibly. And he just finds Justin Long like missing a leg, tied up or something. And that's when like Michael Park kills him right there though.
Yeah, right? Kind of like in The Shining.
Or like, I mean, it happens in Psycho too. It happens at a bunch of different moments in other like movies like this.
Well, I think,
I just kind of like those. I think those just adds kind of like that extra sense of tension. Like, oh, we almost made it out, but.
Well, I think that would have worked for Ralph Garman too. Just give him just that extra little bit apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say the one thing, the movie did feel. It sounds weird, but it was kind of over quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it wasn't like the length was totally short, but just somehow, some way, it's just. And I think sort of like it's also kind of like, you know, Johnny Depp kind of like when he had that scene, you know, it was pretty darn long. I mean, like if you combine it all together, it's almost like a 15, 20-minute long scene where I guess you could kind of show maybe just a little bit more struggle between like Justin Long trying to escape or like, even if maybe like, Ralph Garman just went to investigate and then like he just hears the sounds and he goes in there and next thing you know, Michael Parks maybe dresses up as like, maybe Michael Parks is dressed up as a third character because he only really has two characters in the movie if you think about it. He has kind of a sophisticated one, and then he has the retarded one. If you would have maybe had like some, I don't know, maybe like a third character even, and then killed him. Maybe, just one to add maybe just a tad bit of action and a little bit more suspense, I guess. But
I don't mean to be writing like a fan fiction deleted scene here or some bullshit because it's Kevin Smith's movie. It's like they should have done this. Maybe something cool happens. Like he go like, you know. Garman's heading down that way. He says, all right, well, look at what these kids are talking about. He heads down that way. Michael Parks is playing some third character trying to tear him off. Like, oh, there's nothing down that way. You don't got to worry. You know, just playing some third character. then Garmin says like something weird about this guy. He keeps on going anyway. He gets into the house. He's sneaking around, finds Justin Long, and that's where he kills him right there. And he uses part of Ralph Garman to make the suit. So
yeah, maybe because the one thing is you look at Justin Long, it's like, well, that can't be just his body. I mean, look how big that is. It has to be from somebody else's body. So that would almost be a place where like he kills Ralph Garman and drags him up, and then maybe hangs him in this freezer, and then you see a bunch of other bodies hanging in there too. Like it's like they're not the walrus person, but they're like what's used to make the walrus.
It was also pretty fucked up when he's having trouble swimming and he sinks to the bottom of the pool for a second, and he sees like one or two other like bodies in the walrus suit, like dead bodies down there. Like it's like this isn't the first time this shit's happened.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And there's just a bunch of them down there.
Yeah, I was like, oh fuck, No, I'm all around. I mean, I know I had a few little complaints about it, but regardless, that was a great movie, and I really want to get that when it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD.
That's one of those ones I can't wait to see the special features on it. That's a total must buy. Fantastic. It's one of those ones. As I will say, it wouldn't surprise me
if he had like the audio. One of the audio commentaries is the podcast or something. Like the podcast plays while you watch the movie or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. But it is one of those movies, I will say, it's a 50-50 shot for anybody who's not like a total like Smodcast Kevin Smith fan. Because it's either you're going to really like it, or you're probably not going to like it at all. It's totally that movie. It's either you get it or you don't.
I'm almost kind of wondering, I was kind of thinking people who might like it. I'm not so sure, but I was kind of thinking, my dad might like that movie. I don't know. My dad, he might. The reason I say that is because he'll say, it's really fucking weird, but of all people... Want to know someone my dad really likes? My dad really likes Johnny Depp. He thinks you would not expect that if you met him, but my dad thinks Johnny Depp is a really good actor.
Huh.
And
no, I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say Michael Parks.
I don't even know if he knows.
Did you show your dad Red State?
He would probably. I never showed him Red State. No, he might like Red State.
Because I showed him one time, like, I was over at my parents and we're trying to watch and they wanted to watch a movie, so I was like, they haven't seen Red State yet. I'll show them this. They like other Kevin Smith stuff. And that was one of those movies. Like to this day, I'm not really too sure. They might, because my dad almost ended like that was an interesting movie. So Tusk might be in that same category too. I'm not too sure.
He might. The thing is, because another thing. I mean, this is two links to that movie. I know it's still a way different movie, but it's two links to that movie. Of all movies, one of my dad's favorite movies, it kind of surprised me, is because I asked him, Dad, what are your 5 favorite movies? I was just curious, seeing how accurate I was. 3 of the movies I was dead on. Star Wars, The Great Escape,
Alien,
Magnificent Seven, then like Alien was, I think maybe it was like Alien, and then like and then Dusk Till Dawn.
Huh. My dad loves that movie.
And I was surprised to hear that. So, Michael Parks has that, I'm not sure if you'd recognize him, but he has that great scene at the beginning as Earl McGraw from Dusk Till Dawn. And then it's the guy who does all the guy who did all the prosthetics from Dusk Till Dawn made the walrus suit. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. From Dusk Till Dawn is one of my dad's favorite movies. That's why I want to get him that. I think it just came out on DVD like the first season of Robert Rodriguez's new show, and I hear just fabulous things about it.
I'm curious about it. I really am.
RJ was watching. RJ was watching, and he was saying, "Oh man, it's just fantastic."
It's apparently an expansion. They take the core concept of it and they just kind of make a series out of it. I don't know if it's a mini series or an ongoing one.
Well, they're on their second season, so I think it's a one. RJ was telling me it's more like a remake sort of. He's like, really the same beats happen throughout it as the movie. It's just kind of expanded on.
I heard that something it did was they take kind of, like how I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the character's name, but the Quentin Tarantino character.
Mm-hmm.
You know how he kind of has like weird visions because he's a little crazy. Like there's a part where Juliette Lewis looks at him, says like, "I really want you to eat my pussy right now." There's that part. Apparently in the show, he actually has that. He is crazy, but those visions are actually things that only he can see, so he can kind of foresee things that are going to happen. So it's kind of like a plot device rather than just him being some crazy rapist.
Instead of him just being Quentin Tarantino. No.
Quentin Tarantino really does imagine that all the time.
Well, he wrote it, so sometimes you could never really... When somebody writes stuff, that's when you always got to slightly question it. And then he writes it, and then he really wants to play this character. No.
The thing about that is a lot of people hate it when Quentin Tarantino acts.
I love when Tarantino acts. I don't care. There's even that weird fucking movie where he comes out of the pool as like a fucking god and lightning and stuff's happening, and it's all like TV special effects of like 1995. I don't fucking care. You gotta see that movie just for that one scene because he's just coming out like, And he's like, I almost want to say he's naked. He's coming out of a pool, and there's lightning
going
on.
You look like fucking Ego. You sounded looked like fucking Ego Raptor when you did that shit.
Well, that's what it is. It's like it's fucking Quentin Raptor coming out of there, like it literally, I don't think he didn't have anything to do like writing wise, but it almost just felt like he just came up as like, I'll be in your movie, but you got to make me be the coolest guy known to mankind.
Okay,
everybody's got to look up to me. I literally have to be like a god in this movie, and then I'll be in it.
I want to say this real quick. It's gonna seem like we're going a little off topic, but now I know because on Skype I just saw what you just did.
Nobody else saw. They just heard this like
everybody
like,
everybody else to get an idea. For everybody else to get an idea of what Spencer just did, go on Ego Raptor's YouTube channel. Look up. There's 2 videos. They're incredibly fucking stupid, but you got to see them just for the sake of seeing them. They're called Duel of Fates 1 and Duel of Fates 2. Basically, it's sort of a Star Wars parody. I'm not going to really bother explaining it, but it ends with basically Ego Raptor doing what Spencer just did. It was fucking dead on. So.
And then, what the fuck is that Quentin Tarantino movie called? It was...
Fate Turns on the Radio or something.
Yes, Destiny Turns on the Radio. So if you want to see that movie, it's not that great, but it's got fucking Quentin Tarantino coming out
going Ego Raptor.
That in itself is worth watching it, so fucking check it out. Plus, you don't get that many movies where Quentin Tarantino acts, so.
Well, I really liked that. Was it Richie? Was his name Richie? I think his name was Richie in From Dusk Till Dawn. But yeah.
RJ was also telling me the guy that plays George Clooney in like the TV show, he's like, he almost feels like he does such a good job, and it's almost like you almost sometimes transcend it, almost feeling like it is like sort of George Clooney playing it. Yeah, just like he says he'll nail lines like the same way George would have done it.
The thing about George Clooney, it is kind of like we were talking about, like there's young Kevin Smith and there's now Kevin Smith. Clooney, even though he still seems like a hella cool guy, it's like one of those things like, oh, he never do a movie like Dusk Till Dawn anymore, you know?
Yeah, because that's one of those ones where it was just at that time. It was like he doesn't really have any movies under his belt when that movie came out. It's like he was in ER, right? He's in that one, right?
I think he may have been in. He was in ER. He also may have been in.
Probably a couple movies. I'm not gonna say he wasn't in anything, but he hadn't hit
Three Kings.
No, because that's later. That's like 98.
Three Kings is later.
It's like 98 or 99 or 97. So somewhere there. It's like right when DVDs came out. That's all I know.
Ironically, not all his movies, but ironically like a lot of his older movies more than his newer movies. And not that his newer movies are bad, just now it seems all his newer movies are primarily kind of like he's got a soul message he's trying to get across and trying to get like people to see. And I understand that, but still I kind of like, I still like his more, I love Three Kings. I absolutely love, David O. Russell now he already had a kind of a cult audience beforehand, but now he's doing like, now everyone.
Well, now he's kind of like David O. Russell. It feels like there was a period where he like when Three Kings and stuff, he was making these kind of like, sort of like, Three Kings, it's an action movie, but it's got this twist on it. It's not like an action movie you've seen before. Where now he feels like the last handful of movies he's been making have kind of been sort of like in that sense, like,
They're almost
like
but they're really good mainstream movies.
Yeah,
really
they feel like they're a little bit more easier for people to jump into. I don't know how to explain it really. I thought I had something to say, but like I still love them because I like The Fighter was great.
I never saw The Fighter, but Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle.
American Hustle was
really good movies.
It wasn't the best Christian Bale movie of the year, but it was really good. But speaking of George Clooney, there's one movie that I finally watched. If you need to step out for a second, go for it.
Yeah, I just gotta spit out the window.
Try to spit on somebody. Or no, you're looking at the roof. I forgot. But there was a George Clooney movie that I've never seen, but I just watched it the other day. It was The Men That Stare at Goats.
Oh yeah,
that was a pretty good one. No, I never saw it before.
That's a good movie. It's not perfect, but it's a really good movie.
Oh yeah, it's not perfect. I think the concept's just really neat. Almost one of those movies where like, I would say kind of like in a Tusk sense, like if there's maybe just a handful of more scenes in it, I think that would have just like, made it perfect. If there would have just been the Ralph Garman scenes in it,
just something. I think
full circle to Tusk.
To go back to Tusk, just to put it, I think maybe just one more, 2 more scenes just kind of show like struggle with Justin Long trying to escape almost, and then just not making it out. And then still having the same ending, but just a little bit of struggle, or maybe one more scene where like, or expand on the scene where he's fighting Michael Parks. Make that part a little longer.
Really, I think the idea
still a fantastic.
I think the idea
film,
of a Ralph Garman scene would just, because you could literally plug it in there without changing anything in the movie. It could just be an added scene. And I think it would just give a little bit more depth, a little bit more action, and then a little bit more scariness too. You could do it all in that one scene. But yeah, The Man Stare Goes, that was a pretty damn good movie. George Clooney was great in it. Jeff Bridges is always good.
It definitely felt like I really like that movie. I have that movie. It definitely felt like it was a Coen Brothers inspired movie.
Well, that's why I thought I looked on the back and was like, oh, it's not Coen Brothers? Like, I literally thought that's who it was this whole time.
It has a bunch of Coen Brothers actors. It has kind of Coen Brothers type concepts. But then, even kind of the humor was very Coen Brothers inspired. But yeah, it was Coen Brothers. Let me put it this way: Coen Brothers before they said, "Yep, life sucks." That's how the movie ends sometimes.
Until they got to their tornado endings, where it's just like, how do you end this? Fuck it, put a tornado in the end. Well, aren't you guys gonna finish writing? No, fuck you. We're Coen Brothers. People will buy it.
Coen out.
Coen out.
How is inside Llewyn Davis? He gets some dude beats the shit out of him in the alley for making fun of his wife from a day later, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Really?
Roll credits. Yeah.
That's the end of the movie. Okay.
I don't want to work that hard. But no, I like that one. I thought Man Stare Goats was great. Ewan McGregor, George Clooney,
Kevin Spacey, Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, that's right. Jeff Bridges. I want to say there's a couple other people in there, but
there's also
Robert
just that
Patrick
really
was in it, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah,
there's also
some guys that just had some small parts. Like they only had like one scene.
There's some really funny stuff in that movie that was just kind of it's kind of hard to explain why it's funny, but it's just kind of there. They all have these psychic abilities, and these guys believe this much, and they have this psychic ability bullshit, and it's just very vague. And there's a part where he says that's when Kevin Spacey's character, remember, put the Jubadi curse on me or whatever. He walks up to him and goes, and just puts his hand to his face and runs off. And then he says what did it do? He says, it means I'm going to die anytime from now to 40 years. So
really you could just die from anything and it'd just be, that's what it was from.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's also...
And then he said,
yeah.
They got to point across that there is enough psychic power. There is some psychic powers they have, but just not enough for it to be anything useful, really.
Yeah.
They got that across. I thought that was
I like the part where George Clooney, he had that little solar oven thing. It's that's what we're going to use to cook our dinner at. And then just all day goes by and it's just didn't even fucking cook. Fucking piece of shit.
It's been a while since I watched it, but that was a good movie.
And then the part where I think Jeff Bridges puts the LSD in the food. And then he's all oh yeah, put it in the water too. He's like, well, why the fuck did you do that?
Well, I like the part where he's just he said he says I put it in the eggs, and then they're all laughing. He says you put LSD in the eggs? Yeah. I was putting the water. He's like, why'd you put it in? But we're drinking the water. He's like, yeah, I know. He's
he's drinking it.
Sip from the water. He was basically playing the dude again.
Yeah, it was really it was like if the dude went to war. Well, pretty much. You could almost rechange the name of the movie to that.
Mm-hmm.
Strange enough, it's funny for the movie being called the Men That Stare at Goats. I actually thought there was going to be more staring at goats. I almost thought that the whole movie was going to revolve around guys sitting in a room, and what they were doing is just practicing their psychic abilities staring at goats. And there's only one scene of that in the entire movie. That was the only thing.
Well, it's more that's crucial because he's I used my powers in the wrong way against something innocent. So now that was kind of the thing about it all. I thought it was kind of funny though. They would have those scenes yeah, well we at first they would they would test weapons on dogs, but they felt bad. You see a guy pointing a gun at this cute dog. The dog's just licking the barrel of the gun. He just has this really bad look on his face. But they had no problems doing it to goats. And it cuts a goat tied to a sign that says nuclear nuclear bio
testing.
Testing. You hear a bomb being dropped. The goat just looks up.
Might be like Jurassic Park sort of.
Yeah. So we have no problem doing it to goats. That's why we did it for them.
I just kind of like that concept. It was just it was sort of what if hippies were kind of used to fight war?
The military.
Yeah. It was one of the ones I thought the concept was fantastic, and the movie was good, but if it just was maybe expanded on just a tad bit, who knows? Or
Kevin Spacey, or there's a line that's just yeah, the Al Qaeda actually said they started their own. Here's one they sent us. So he's just but he says I think we're winning the psychic war with Al Qaeda. Opens it up. Bart Simpson and Burt Reynolds are fucking your wives back home. All right, anyway.
He says something really funny. He was oh boy, they got that wrong, or wrong time period or something like that.
Yeah, says they're a few years behind on that or whatever.
But no, that's a good one. But speaking of or you got something else to say on that?
I think we're going both the same direction, but I was going to say something a little newer that actually just came out.
Yeah, did you happen to check out the Gotham, the new Batman
I watched
show,
Gotham.
I guess?
I watched Gotham right before we started recording.
Well, what'd you think of it?
Here's what I think of it. I see the kid gloves. I see the training wheels. I'm curious. There was no real moment like, oh my god, they got that. But I was more of like, okay, I'm curious. Let's see what happens. I think the show has potential to be something really good. I mean, it's not really fair to judge a show solely on the first episode, especially when, I mean, Firefly, first episode I thought was pretty good, but really I don't think Firefly really gets good to like episode 4. So,
well, in a lot of shows, you have to almost get warmed up to them, I've always learned. Even the best show that you could possibly think of, most likely you didn't like it like one episode in.
Exactly. Like even going back to, let's take it to television shows and Batman, like Batman the Animated Series, fantastic show. I think it's not really till, like, I know everybody says this, but Heart of Ice, I think, is the episode where that really picks up.
Well, as a kid, I don't think I watched it like episode 1, day 1, because I couldn't even tell you what the first episode I saw of Batman is. I almost want to say,
same here.
Like I have ones that I remember in my head, not necessarily the first ones I watched, but like when I can like think of episodes that I watched in like 1992. I remember ones like the werewolf and stuff, but that happens in season 2. But
same here. And
maybe because it's one's like Batman fights a werewolf, and like as a kid, that's like such an amazing thing.
Or Clock King or something.
But like when you do when you watch that very first episode of the animated series, it's like he fights Man-Bat, which is like, well, it's a start.
Well, it's also one of those things, though. I'm not even because that's one of my favorite shows right there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than anything, and I'm not even kind of going off when I saw it as a kid, because when you're a kid, you just put bright colors and action on a screen.
As long as Batman's throwing punches and there's some cool monster thing like werewolves and shit, like you're happy.
Or like Joker or whatever, you're happy with that and you're fine with that.
As long as the Batmobile gets to drive up and down the road.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you're happy and fine with that. Looking back on it now, the show was already entertaining. I don't think it got really good till like probably like I want to say Heart of Ice was halfway in season 1.
Yeah,
maybe somewhere around there.
It's sort of like
I mean, and that's not saying it's not saying everything there beforehand sucked. It's just saying that I think sometimes shows need to get their footing. I never saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show. I saw like a few episodes, but everyone tells me that's a show where the first season's a little rough, but then once you get past the first season, that's where the show's absolutely amazing. I'd never seen it, but I mean, I saw like 2 or 3 episodes. I had no idea what was going on, but I could see that being true because Joss Whedon, I know how good he is. I know that he's a really good writer, and a good showrunner.
Well, it's like on Arrow, that's another example. Is like, in the first season, even though it's still pretty good, it's that whole season. It's like, now that show, like I will say this, the first episode of Arrow was like 100 times better than the first episode of Gotham. But and that being said, that one still, like, they had to kind of tiptoe, make sure that the average Joe mom and pop in Oklahoma were going to accept this first and foremost before they could start progressing into making an actual superhero show, which is sort of where they got in season 2, and then hopefully season 3, when that comes out, really soon, they will finally be able to go, okay, this is a full-on superhero show that just happens to be live action. So kind of like, the one thing about Gotham is, like, the whole time when I saw, like, the trailers and stuff before that show came out, my thing was, like, it's going to be probably just a regular cop show that has sprinkles of Batman-ness in it. And that's what that first episode kind of proved to me. It was one of those ones, because I'm not a big, it was one of those, I'm not a big fan of CSI, NCIS. Not saying they're bad, they're just not for me. It's weird. I like cops like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, but I don't necessarily like cops where they're just kind of like not fucking, they don't have mullets and
you rather just watch, you don't like cop, you like, it's like less story, more shooting.
Well, I think like TV shows, it's more like they focus on, it's due to the budget, they focus like on the investigation. I don't really give a flying fuck about investigation. It's like, if you could do it right, then yeah, it's cool. And I think, in movies sometimes it works, but it's one of those ones that's just, I'm just not really into that like crime scene investigation stuff. Where people are kind of walking around solving mysteries and stuff. And it sounds kind of weird because I know Batman does that, but there's sort of like, Batman does it in a way that makes me like enjoy that detective work.
Here's the thing about the show. Now, it could get better. I'm going to watch the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the next few, and I'll probably even watch the whole thing unless it gets to a point where it's just like, fuck you, you're insulting me.
That's how I mean, like, I'll say I saw, like, even though it was way different, I saw, like, the first 2 episodes of Birds of Prey, and that was
just a Birds of Prey chair? There's a Birds of Prey show.
It was only one season. Basically, what that was.
Oh, I remember when. Never mind. I do remember when that kind of came out.
It wasn't really. It was. They said it was Birds of Prey, but it was basically just kind of like trying to find a way to. They're trying to write off Smallville. I think what they're eventually going to do is they're going to have a crossover with Smallville, but this show lasted so shortly that. And it wasn't that good.
Did it have Black Canary and Oracle, or I guess there's a lot of
to an extent.
Huntress?
They're Oracle. They said they even had even the beginning of it. They kind of had this prologue where Alfred was saying, they had Batman in a suit, but it was just kind of like quick exposition. It says Batman and Catwoman got together. They had this kid. This kid happened to be Huntress, and she happened to gain Catwoman's abilities, which she doesn't have any fucking abilities, but whatever, I'll take it. And when she her eyes would turn into a cat iris, and then she would run up. She'd be extra fast and be extra agile.
That is literally somebody who never fucking read a comic and watched a fucking trailer of Batman Returns and said, "I got this."
And then she
Did you watch the full movie? I don't need to watch the full movie. I got it. I saw it all in the trailer. I'm writing it already.
Or they got a little bit of killing. This is all within
except
the
for the Batman and Catwoman. There is that Earth 2 thing where they have the kid and it's Huntress. So that's at least diving somewhere into it. But
they had who knows? Maybe it got better. I saw the first episode. The acting was pretty bad. I mean, I know it's CW, but it was or WB at the time, but it was pretty bad. Oracle was in it. They said they said that she was Batwoman or Batgirl, but she got shot by Joker, and they made a reference to Killing Joke. So she was in the wheelchair. There was a blonde girl there who could see the future. I don't know if that was supposed to be, or had visions. I don't know if that was supposed to be Black Canary or not. And they were kind of manning Gotham. Apparently, I kind of just read a quick synopsis of the whole season online because years later, I forgot about that show. I'm just going to look back on it real quick. Mm-hmm. And apparently, the main villain, there was some Joker was apparently dead or locked up, and Batman was in retirement. He was never there. And at some point, they interrogated a inmate named Two-Face, and not Two-Face, Clayface, mm-hmm. And he was just kind of a deformed hitman. And that's I don't know. They made a few references, apparently, just wink and nods to he's quite a ship-shaped personality, some bullshit like that. You know how they kind of wink. Well, that kind of way they wink and say, "Yep, that's who it is." Kind of it was done a little better than that, but it was for instance, enough riddles, Enigma, yeah. that kind of,
yeah, we're just look, there you go, you fucking nerds. We gave you your reference. Now let's get back to our fucking show for regular people.
It says, come on, be a good little penguin. That kind of shit.
Going to Gotham, speaking of the penguin.
I just want to spit this out.
Why the fuck does penguin not have an accent? That's always one of my biggest problems. And this goes both movies and television. How fucking hard is it to find somebody who can do an accent? Is that really the hardest thing?
I'll just spit this part out real quick.
It's like in fucking X-Men, you know what I mean? With what's his name, the Irish character. It's he can't have, or the Scottish character. Why can't he have or I guess he's Irish actually. Why the fuck does he not have an accent? Banshee.
But I just want to spit this out, but apparently Harley Quinn, I guess, was the main villain of the first season. She was a psychiatrist, and she says, I'm trying to get the Joker back or whatever. But, yeah, and she's just an old lady by this point. So I never watched the show, so that is, I guess, the first live-action Batman show since the Adam West one. This is now the third. This one right here, I guess, I liked it. I'm just not blown away. We'll see what happens. I will say I thought it was cool how many characters they nod to, but at the same time,
they got about 8 characters or something in one episode, so I will give them credit there.
The one thing I'm kind of worried about. The one thing I'm worried about though is they're gonna do this thing because I thought that I forget the dude's name, but he was the guy in the OC. I thought he did a good James Gordon. I really liked the guy that played Harvey Bullock. I'm glad we finally got to see Harvey Bullock in live action. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things I really hope they don't have all these other characters that are just kind of okay, Riddler, he is not actually part of the show. Here's just a little segment. He's here once a week. They go to the crime. Because what was he? He was a statistics guy or whatever. He worked at the something like that. Because he did work for the police.
Yeah, he worked for the police, and he did.
He's a CSI.
He was pretty the fucking nerd of the show. That's kind of they designated him as that character.
And then when they went in to talk to him, he says like, yeah, so what's he kind of says, I got an idea. So this bullet fires one kind of caliber. It's this kind of caliber. Just no fucking riddles. Tell us what it is. So and that, I'm guessing hopefully they give him more than that. Hopefully he's just not some nerd who just kind of like gives him a little bit of information in a very irritating way. They got a crop. Poison Ivy, I saw her as a little girl there.
Yeah, what do you think that Poison Ivy one was kind of fucking weird. It's like, so she's like, what, like some trailer trash, like, little girl that lives in fucking, like, Gotham, and who got her dad got gunned down, like...
At least Catwoman kind of had, like, or Catgirl by this point, had a little bit of stuff going on.
Yeah, she's kind of... The girl that got the player looked really fucking weird, because she had those, like, really wide eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well, she does look kind of like a cat, so... Okay,
yeah, I guess that's what they were going with. But, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like, it's one of those ones that just... I thought the guy who played Alfred was the best part. That's where I like the most, because he kind of reminded me of...
Bruce, get your bloody ass off the fucking roof! Only he didn't say fucking, but still.
He reminded me of Alfred and Beware the Batman.
He did.
He was one of the ones like, why can't they give Alfred a mustache? Like, how hard is that? I mean, if Justin Long, he's bringing back the mustache in Tusk, come on, bring back the mustache in Alfred. That's all I have to say.
They never give Alfred a mustache in live action.
I think it's the mustache is the main thing is it's been so outdated, I guess, in like the general like fashion eye that's why you never see the mustache on him anymore.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it, like the mustache hasn't been in fashion since the 80s. So perfect example is like 89 Batman.
It's back now though. It's back now. A lot of you guys see so many ironic mustaches around this town. I tell you.
No, yeah, well that's because you're in San Francisco though. That's not.
Yeah, but it's more everywhere now. Yeah,
Yeah, but you don't see it like on like that. That's like the young. It's not Alfred's generation wouldn't be part of that in the Gotham show. You know what I mean?
I know, but you still think you just give him the fucking mustache.
Well, I just think
more
it's just
acceptable again.
Classic. Just one's like don't change like that kind of look. But whatever, it's a small complaint, but it always bothers me every single time I see a live action one. It's like, how hard is it for him to grow a fucking mustache? But it's one of those ones like that show. It's just like, I think my only thing is I just know it's gonna be a cop show like every episode, and like that to me is probably where it's gonna lose me at. Like you're gonna try to, you know what I mean?
I'll say this about the show. It's more like I can see it going. I thought it was kind of funny. Like they're really trying to get across. Like we really like the band Dead Weather because they had like put 3 other songs playing in there. Just like let's go knock some heads. They're just playing like Dead Weather for a second. When they go into that one chick's club, they're playing Dead Weather. Like I didn't think the show was bad. It was like I think it's. I'd probably be more blown away if the Dark Knight trilogy didn't already exist. And they didn't have the slew of really good DCU comic book movies out.
Well, if this came out in 2001 or whenever like kind of Smallville did, I think it would work really well.
But since we've had so much since then, I mean, something I hope they do, if they end up making it a little bit bigger and grander, more than just organized crime, I hope they don't go with the League of Assassins. I hope they go with Court of Owls, since that keeps it right in Gotham. Eventually they're planning to bring Joker into it. They're eventually going to bring other characters into it. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if a young Thomas Elliot or a young Harvey Dent comes into the show. So, yeah. And it seems like what they did, the one thing that kind of worries me is they had like all these villains appear for a second, but just as cameos. So I really hope they're just not going to just pop in like, look who it is, bye, and run the other way. Hopefully they all at some point do something in the show. Hopefully Poison Ivy in some way. She doesn't have to become Poison Ivy and have all these crazy plant abilities by the end of the series. But at least hopefully we see her at least heading in that direction and almost kind of like seeing some kind of like bitterness towards Bruce Wayne, seeing as her dad died while looking for like Bruce Wayne's family's killer. And that's the result. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's almost one. Speaking of even Poison Ivy, it's like when they come to like her house or whatever, and she answers the door and she's got just like the derelict father, and then it's like they literally just place some fucking plants all around the house. You're like, see, Poison Ivy, she likes plants. See, you know what we're talking about, right? Batman. And it's just kind of there's those things like that. It's like, okay.
I was kind of surprised to see they had Alan and Montoya there as like actual characters. Like, okay, we got Montoya. Okay, she at some point
she's kind of like the bad character in the movie or the show at the moment.
She at some point lesed out with Barbara Gordon. So.
Yeah, and she like that was another one that was really fucking weird. That was like, it's like, did they have to make fucking Jim Gordon live in like fancy pants like house? Like they almost did this thing. They're like, we'll just make his wife, she'll just be like a artist or whatever she is, or like she owns like an art shop or something like. And that's kind of like.
Yeah.
there's those things that's like, Jim Gordon to me, like in the comics and even like the animated stuff, he's always just kind of lived in like, he's supposed to be the everyman character. He lives in a shitty apartment. He works a job where he works way too many hours and doesn't get paid enough money. He's always trying to take care of his family, but he never has that time. And then right here, it's just like they made him all yuppie, and it's like, I looked at that.
He wasn't yuppie. He was still.
Well, he was okay. So he wasn't like Jim Gordon the way that I would think Jim Gordon. He wasn't the everyman. Let's just say that. It's like they gave him a fucking penthouse apartment. He was.
They made it that that was like his girlfriend was rich. That was their thing. And I'm gonna say I would prefer my Jim Gordon. We're seeing a young Jim Gordon, but on top of that, it was more like Barbara isn't supposed to, in my opinion, isn't some. I just think they just wanted to like just try and give a little like style and pizzazz to it. But I kind of like Jim Gordon. Like I agree with you.
Well, I think
I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem with the way he plays Jim Gordon. I think he's a good young Jim Gordon. Mm-hmm. I just think that it's just.
I think it's just his setting is just wrong. I think that's what it is. And I think what they did is they did this because if you think about all the superhero main characters generally, you got Iron Man, he's really fucking rich. You got Arrow, Green Arrow, he's really fucking rich. You got Batman, he's really fucking rich. So I thought they were like, well, Jim Gordon's our main character. We got to make him really rich.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't really big on like. I think he does a good job playing him. I just think they plopped him in the wrong like set for his apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
And I when I saw I was almost kind of like when I saw that there was because at some point that was supposed to be Barbara, and I'm not trying to nitpick too much in comparison to the comics, but I want to say that originally, I'd assume she'd be a redhead since her daughter becomes a redhead, but or at least brunette. But
strange enough, Jim Gordon's supposed to be redhead.
Oh yeah, he is.
They never make him that in live action, but like when you look at all the comics, he always has between red and like light brown hair, give or take. Sometimes it's like full red,
or white if it's an older interpretation.
Yeah, like like in year one, I think he's just got full on red hair, and I want to say Barbara has like blonde hair.
No, Barbara didn't have blonde hair. Because in year one. He had a relation. I forget the character's name, but I think it was something with an S, not Sterling, but Starling. Because he had a relationship. He cheated on his Barbara with this character, and then this character implied it later this is a parallel universe thing, but he implied he got married to her in Batman: Dark Knight Returns. So Barbara either died or he got divorced to Barbara at some point in time.
Okay, well, still because
he says I do it like. Well, yeah, there's the whole line. Every single time I think of Sharon, he's like, I think of Sharon, and I'm able to pull the trigger because he gives that speech. It's that speech in the comics. It's a speech when he comes across some like mutant that's gonna try and like start shit with him, and he has that monologue playing in his head.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And then they use that speech when he's given his like resignation or his farewell speech in the movie. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those ones like, mostly Barbara always seems to kind of have light hair, I guess.
And not totally fucking rich. Because there is that part in year one when they go see Bruce Wayne and when they go see Bruce Wayne and they're just kind of like a very modest car. It's like, this guy's a fucking pig. What's wrong with him? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and this chick, she was super rich, super kind of snobby in some sense, But
I will say this, think of all the TV shows you generally see on TV. They mostly always are rich people. I think it's hard to sell poor people. Every once in a while you will get something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and you got a character like Charlie, who's living with like a 50-year-old man in a tiny ass apartment.
I just love that because there's it would just be weird, creepy things. They add to Charlie. It'll be something like, I want to say Frank. It's like the episode where they're basically making fun of Die Hard and they're held hostages by the O'Doyles. Mm-hmm. And Frank's like, where the hell am I? I'm in this weird spot where there's just broken glass everywhere. He says, oh shit, you're in Charlie's angry room. Like, what? Charlie's angry room? Yeah, he goes there when he's sad and he breaks bottles. And then he'll say Charlie comes in, he says oh yeah, just follow me. He says, you know where you're going? Yeah, I crawl around these vents all the time. Just these weird, creepy, it's just what the fuck is wrong with you? Or how Charlie is Charlie has his dream journal. Just you don't have very many shows with characters with that many problems. Just problems, yeah.
But think about 90%, think of all the main shows that people watch though. And then you realize that everybody's rich, and I think that's what they had to do. They're like, we can't sell like the everyman guy to the people. People want. It's like I almost feel like they go like, people want these people to be really rich. They don't want to see themselves on TV. They want to see like.
They want to see what they want to have. Rather
yeah, and I think that's one of those ones where I've always been kind of like the opposite, where it's like, no, I like to see people that are more like, in my category, that's kind of who Jim Gordon is. He's the relatable guy. He's the guy he does really good, but really doesn't get too much success for it.
I think that something with him is, because when I think of Barbara, I don't think of. I think it's so much. I just don't know why they made her. I'm not. Maybe I had no problem with her character or personality, but she just seemed kind of like a generic kind of. I guess I did. She felt
just
very
like snobby. She felt very like she was supposed to be New York artsy. You know what I mean? It's like they just kind of took a stereotypical character and slapped it on to Barbara and just said, "There we go." Now Jim Gordon can have a rich place to hang out.
When Barbara's kind of like in the same boat as Gordon, you know what I mean? So.
Well, yeah, it's just like one of those ones like. Yeah, it's just one of those. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll lose his money in the long, because I feel like in Arrow at some point he's gonna, if they want to kind of, because in the comics there's a long period where Green Arrow has no money whatsoever. Like he is just like you or me. You know what I mean? He's just fighting crime on the streets. And that's like there's like a 30-year period, I want to say, because like he's rich like when he first starts in like the 50s and 60s, but he loses all his money in like the 70s and all the way up to like 2000s, I want to say. I'm not too sure when he gets his money back, if he even does, and then I hopefully in the show at some point they'll just like make him lose all that money, and then he can go back to just being like the guy on the street.
Yeah.
This actually reminds me of another thing. When I was watching Ninja Turtles, this is a question I've always had: where the fuck do the Ninja Turtles get all that fancy gear? Like, they're not fucking Bruce Wayne.
They probably just fucking stole it.
Well, lots of times, like, they do kind of say that. They're always like, oh, well, what's the guy that creates the little mouser things? What's his name again?
Simon?
Oh.
The guy that turns into a fly eventually?
No, not that guy. Well, you know what I mean. He creates the little robots. Like, Dr. Baxter. There we go. Like that guy, it's like there was one part where they're like, oh yeah, well, good thing we got this like helicopter from Dr. Baxter, and then Donnie fixed it all up. I'm like, once again, where does Donnie get all this like technology? It's like,
I don't think they're putting a whole lot of like thought and reason behind a show called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the first place, and they're aiming it for kids and that. And like,
still,
the original,
well, the original one's concept, like it's to sell toys, so it's like just put something really cool in there that kids want to buy, like the turtle copter or the turtle jet. Or,
it worked. When I was now I'm actually kind of wondering, where did they store all this shit? Because they did have a jet, they did have a copter. I want to say they even had a blimp, and I'm trying to think of where they store all that shit. Is what I'm trying to remember.
That's like one of those ones, like how much property can they, living in the sewer and kind of hiding out in one area is one thing, but like next thing you know, once you're storing all this stuff, somebody's gonna come down there and notice it all. Like be like, this is my job, is to check maintenance on these every 10 years.
Something that kind of annoyed me a little bit, I'll say this, because there is the new Turtles film that came out, and one thing I was a little excited about it for was, like, I saw in the trailer, like, oh shit, they got the turtle van, that's awesome. And then, like, because I don't think any of the other movies, or maybe like the animated one had the turtle van, but it didn't really do anything. It was just like a van that was just kind of spray painted up a little bit. Mm-hmm. The fourth one, the CG one, there's like, oh, they actually have a turtle van in this one, that's awesome. And then like, oh, they don't get it to like the very end of the movie just to show it off. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of hoping for a little more with that, but whatever.
But I always watch Ninja Turtles, and they always have all this like technology. Like millions of dollars worth of technology, and I always just wonder. Like, they must just rob Shredder, and they must just rob Dr. Baxter. The problem they do is they fucking, like, the second that they defeat an enemy, they just start like shoving it all in their turtle pockets. They just get this big truck in
their shells.
Yeah, and they just carry it out. They're just dragging it up, tying a rope behind it. Fucking Ralph's out there like hot wiring a pickup truck, and they're just dragging.
I see them possibly just going to like maybe putting it all together by just going to different like hardware and like computer stores and whatnot, and just like just they have like some scene like April and Neil's like, wow, where'd you guys get this awesome setup? nowhere, we get it around. You see them knocking over like a Microsoft store, like banging shit, like slapping some guy. Where's the fucking? Give me all the iPads you got, motherfucker! Like punches the wall next to him. Like, okay, I'm so sorry. They're just like, load it. They're like pointing like a sword at his side, loading it in the back of the turtle van. Like, shit, man, the fucking cops! And then like they get back. Yeah. So anyway, it was a crazy night. We had a lot of pizza and all that. Like, no, where'd you get all this? This is so much. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
When they're doing it, they're all dressed up in like their like porn store outfits.
The trench coats and the fake mustaches.
Well, because that's like in the old show, it's like they put on these like trench coats and hats and stuff. It just always looks like they're going to like an adult bookstore.
That or they're like pedophiles.
Yeah.
You see the turtle van going by like a fucking like playground.
Turtle Files.
Turtle Files. That's probably a name of like a fan podcast for the Turtles. I
bet you anything there is. But yeah, that Gotham show. I mean, I hope it picks up. I'm not too sure. It's one of those ones like I think just as a Batman fan, I feel like it's literally just gonna be a probably stick to being a cop show that just has a little bit of Batman stuff in it. I'm not too sure if I'm gonna expect to see just a ton of Batman-ness in it. I mean, who knows? They could surprise you, and I think that it's worth sticking around to see if that does happen.
Well, I think the problem is every time you have like, I mean, I kind of understand what they're trying to do, but on top of that, I mean, the second you try and tell Batman stories without Batman or some dude in a cape punching people, at least somebody who in some way represents a superhero, it's a little harder to like just fit it in there. I mean, and plus at the very end, like I guess they're trying to show like this is the rise of Penguin or whatever. When Jim Gordon's supposed to kill Penguin, but then he just shoots him in the shoulder and then pushes him into the water.
He doesn't shoot him at all.
Oh, he just barely.
He just shoots Pat. He just pretty much just makes him deaf in one ear, pushes him over the edge.
Mm-hmm. Then like Harvey Bullock's like, okay, yeah, you did it or whatever, And then like Penguin just like suddenly just for that swim, he's a lot more beastly now. He's all swimming across the water.
He attacks some poor guy fishing.
Yeah, but the thing he's all hunched over and like what he grabs like what's he do? He for some reason it was just that ending was kind of like what the fuck? I mean, if he was already maybe like deformed, he's like some scrawny little guy, and some scrawny tall guy. He falls in the water, he's hunched over, he's cold, he's deformed, and there's just some guy fishing. Hey, what's up? Grabs his knife, slits his throat, grabs his sandwich, turns around, looks at the camera. Gotham. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Well, like he got like his leg on.
If he grabbed a raw fish and took a bite out of that, then okay, whatever. That seems a little immediate, but at least it's a little more. But Penguin, he loves him some fucking sandwiches. What the fuck was that ending?
Well, too, it's like, where the hell's his accent? Like that's one of those ones. Like, why is it so hard to like have an accent anymore? It's just like I don't know. Well, I like when Penguin's at least somewhat sophisticated.
He didn't always have a British accent, though. That's he sometimes he had more of like an aristocratic kind of.
Well, that's what I mean, though. He doesn't have any accent. He just kind of feels like some like weird like nerdy kid.
What I hope what they do, because they didn't really say it. He was just some guy who was like, who's this character? Fish Mooney, whatever.
Yeah.
He was her right hand man. I really hope at some point they get across that this guy, he was like. Because like kind of like the Cobblepots got into too much crime or whatever, and they slowly just faded out of they kind of like their family name was tarnished. He couldn't go anywhere. She took him in. Hopefully they at least acknowledge that rather than him just being some guy that started up. Because I always kind of like they found a way that it's almost kind of like that's kind of what's cool about the dynamic between Bruce and Penguin is because it's this their
families kind of work together throughout time.
Yeah, there's always between like the four families, it's either 4 or 5 families of Gotham. There was always kind of like the Waynes were always the good ones, but then you had the Cobblepots, the Elliots. I don't remember if I don't think the Falcones were the Arkham, and then I want to say.
And sometimes I always kind of have somebody else.
The Kane. I don't think Falcone was one of the originals. I want to say Falcone is they kind of moved their way in there. I don't think they were one of the original families. They might have been. But
there's that good comic called Gates of Gotham by Scott Snyder and Kyle Higgins that kind of goes into a lot of that stuff.
It was the Kane. Okay, it was. I want to say it was. Now it's bothering me because it's the Waynes, the Cobblepots, the Elliots, the Arkham, and then maybe there was the Did I already say Kane?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Maybe Kane. I want to say.
Well, his name drops that one in there. Is that? Wow.
Yeah. All good?
Yeah, I just kind of twisted it.
So.
But
yeah, and so I hopefully this I mean if it does lead into being something bigger, something more than just kind of like organized crime with a little pinch of Batman. Hopefully we end up getting some like Court of Owls type shit. I mean I say Court of Owls because we've yet to see that in any other medium other than the comics, and on top of that, it is like Gotham centric. I guess that's kind of cool. The idea this Illuminati-esque, this Illuminati overlooking Gotham, and it's not the Legion of Shadows or League of Assassins, which we've seen much by this point.
Yeah, I agree too, because you almost see that a little too much. But it would be nice. Yeah, it's only based off one episode, so in 3 episodes from now, everything could change. The way I just kind of look at it, it's like one of those ones like I look at because Arrow kind of set the groundwork. So like I'm not going to give Arrow as much crap for the fact like that it kind of like started off the way it kind of is there. But now since Arrow's on its 3rd season and it's pretty much gone full superhero, there's no reason that Gotham shouldn't be already full superhero, and if Flash is going to be full superhero.
Here's the thing that's going to be making it a little harder for it to be full superhero is a lot of the characters are too young to actually be out there fight. One of them is too young to be out there fighting crime. A bunch of the other characters are too young to be out there as the villains. And another aspect is the main character is not even a superhero. He's a cop.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't put... Still, like, you can always put superhero elements in there. Because Jim Gordon, in my opinion, just make him a little bit more... Like, he's badass. Yeah, he's your regular guy, but he's fighting... I mean, that's what Batman is. He's your regular... He doesn't have superpowers, but he's fighting supervillains. And same with Green Arrow. He doesn't have superpowers, but he's fighting like, supervillains. What really makes Jim Gordon different than Batman and other than money and Green Arrow?
Aside from all the money in the world.
Aside from literally all the money in the world. And, I feel like Jim Gordon could still have those, like...
I think you could, but I just doubt
come on.
They
Green
will.
Arrow learned all his training in about 5 years on an island.
Here's the thing. I think I'd like to see that. I just doubt they will.
No,
because they already set it up more as a cop show. I want to say that Arrow, you look at it, they probably had the intention of it being a realistic kind of action show that would eventually lead into superhero shit. The thing is, we don't got a character that's focused that dresses up. Like I don't think at any point like Gordon's gonna put on like a suit like I am G-Man or whatever.
I don't mean like Jordan. Like he doesn't have to dress up, but just I'm guessing maybe the thing just intensify the action with Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, just make it fucking Lethal Weapon. Why not? You know what I mean?
I'm all for that. Lethal Weapon.
Where it's just like it's not just a regular let's go over here and investigate this. Oh, we got a clue. Let's go over here. Oh, okay. One person gets shot. Okay, let's go investigate this clue. Oh, okay, let's go do that. And it's like, that's just kind of like, I don't know. I guess because there is so many shows out there that do that. You know what I mean? And they've been on for 60 plus years. You know what I mean? Like, how many more shows can you have like that? And I feel like I
would like to see more of a, like you said, like Lethal Weapon, but then like they get to the crime scene, it's Mr. Freeze or Deadshot.
Yeah, it's like they get to the crime scene, and then like it's just like, oh fuck, like Scarecrow, like totally like because the villains you could
I just love that writing of the show, like, oh fuck, Scarecrow, fuck these kids up.
He just gets there, just make the show. I mean, I know it's on Fox, and Fox isn't lots of times known for like being as ballsy unless it's they're like, we have a station for ballsy. It's called FX, and if we want to go even more ballsier, we got another one called FXX.
They should just put it on FX. That's what the show should be on.
I really think that's just like they should just take that next step that the show needs. I mean, it was once. This is all based off one episode, so I know you can't say too much, but. Just don't make it. I just hopefully hope that it's just not going to be CSI the whole time. That's all I'm saying mainly.
I agree.
And that's the bottom line.
Hopefully, the show grows a little bit more of a pair of balls, and
just.
I mean, look, I'll say this: the show doesn't look ridiculously cheap because a lot of times
it looks like it's got like some high production in it.
Yeah, I mean the show. I'll say this at least: it's a good-looking show, and it sounds like we hated it, which I didn't hate it. I thought it was all right. I just I was interested in where it was going. It just seems like what you said to me when because you watched it before I did. You said it's basically a normal cop show with hints of Batman, and that's what I kind of figured it would be. But like, hopefully it expands and becomes something more, and hopefully we get some more like just visually interesting characters. And plus, I just don't know what the fuck's that ending. Just with like, I mean, look, I want Cobblepot to go murdering people. I want that. And I even like that scene when he says, like, here, you want to do it? He's holding the umbrella. He's like, here, why don't you give a few whacks? Like, really? And he's just like, really, he's just being the guy.
Yeah.
Like, that was a cool scene. I like that right there. That's pretty good.
That was
and then,
one of the best moments in the movie.
And then, but they get something as weird, because that seems very Penguin, like kind of early Penguin. But then maybe, I don't know, hopefully at some point he has this aristocratic rise to power, and he kind of enforces like this really fake, like aristocratic accent, and people like, and he gets, hopefully just money. He stumbles upon, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that was like his thing. Like, this is the beginning of his eating disorder. He swam, he was so hungry, he ate a sandwich, and he couldn't stop fucking eating sandwiches from that day forward.
Then he went to Red Lobster and started eating all the biscuits and fish he could. Next thing he just walks out and he's all And the other thing too is he wasn't that short. I mean, I know these sound like light complaints, but it's just one of those, there's so many people out there in the world. Like, what, you couldn't find somebody who was short and kind of fat?
Maybe I can understand making him like,
I guess they, because skinny, they probably want to like sexy him up, because it's sort of like in like Arrow when they have Amanda Waller and they have to make her kind of like sexy. It's like, I think that's what makes Amanda Waller like look more intimidating, is that she's just this humongous lady. Just like,
well, New 52, she is. In New 52, they made her sexy.
Oh, did they do that too?
She's no longer like, I prefer my Amanda Waller
300-pound like she would take on a sumo wrestler in seconds kind of look.
Well, I'll say this, a really good interpretation of Amanda Waller, actually, just because even though she's a little bigger, she's still damn fine, good looking, was Pam Grier played Amanda Waller in Smallville.
Oh, really?
And I thought
you were going to say Amanda Waller in Batman Assault in Arkham. That's like, they made her like,
let me tell you. Yeah, no. Pam Grier played her in Smallville.
That's pretty cool.
That right there was, she's a little heftier, but you can still tell it's Pam Grier, and for that alone, just like, oh damn, she's actually looking pretty good,
That's Pam Grier. That's just bound to happen, but
yeah.
So it's just one of those ones. I always feel like those are like small complaints I always have with kind of TV shows, but I always just go like, with so many actors out there, like, what, you couldn't find one that was like in the right category?
Well, also on top of that, I mean, somebody, we got to sound like so fucking nitpicky by this point, just a bunch of little nitpicky.
I know, that's the only thing. I think it's.
But at the same time, though, there's so many pretty good-looking people in the show. Might as well just throw in like, some like, because all right, we already got. Let's just go with not even, because all the women in the show are beautiful looking. Let's just stick with the guys. You got Jim Gordon, who's a good-looking dude. You got Harvey
Bullock.
No. I guess maybe Jim Gordon is the only good-looking guy aside from Penguin. Okay, never mind. So
I'm not saying Penguin's really good because he looks really weird and nerdy. I just think it's just one of those ones. I'm just talking about his stature. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things you sacrifice. I think. Like, I always look at Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He's tall, but I feel like that's one. It's like that's okay because everything else is so perfect. You know what I mean? You can minus off that one little thing. But that guy's playing Penguin. It's like, well, he doesn't really have any total qualities towards it, anyways. If he was like tall and kind of a little bit chunky and he like kind of was doing everything else Penguin wise and he just happened to be tall, I'd be like, that's fine, that's cool. But I think it's when you're missing like everything else. I think
for some reason
whenever people get between us and like Batman, I think there's always that's like one of the few parts where you just get nitpicky to the max. But
I don't know. I guess it's already all there. Well, it looks like it's trying to emulate. All right, I guess. I feel like such a fucking whiny little bitch on like some fan forum right now, but fuck it, I'm already there. Well, just because I got these kind of complaints about it, and I still walked away like, well, I'm curious to see where the show goes. And I got all these fucking complaints about it.
It's kind of like when you kick somebody in the balls, and then you just kind of go, but I still want to see you keep making stuff. But I might kick you in the balls next week too. So
I don't know. I guess it's just when they try to, like you said, they try to young and sexy everything up. And I think about it, Jim Gordon is probably one of the only good-looking guys on the show, but still. It still seems like a show that, like, I don't know. It just, given everything else, I have a feeling they're going to try and young up everybody else in the show and try to, like, just like you said, make a simplified cop show with just hints of Batman. And the thing is, it's already all there. They seem like they're trying to pull from the Christopher Nolan trilogy. Hey, Laura, how's it going? It seems like they're trying to pull from the Christopher Nolan trilogy, but on top of that, they won't be able to do that because A, they don't have the money, B, they don't have Batman, so they can't expand onto all these stories that we want to see them expand onto, and we got to do all this build up for characters we already know is there, and you got to kind of, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I guess for me too, because like from just watching Arrow, it's like, okay, Arrow's already there, it already exists, people seem to like it. And then, it started off just tiptoeing into it, the superhero realm. And then, by season 2, once they just full on said, fuck it, you know what, let's just go, full, I'm going to say full Dark Knight. Because that's about like where they're at in number 2. And by season 3, it looks like they're going to say, let's go beyond Dark Knight and let's actually be close to the comics, and that's same with Flash too. So if those two didn't exist right now, then I would say, okay, maybe like Gotham would be fine. But like when I know that those already exist, I know they're not Fox, but they're still fucking part of DC. And then I just think, like, why don't you have Gotham in that same ballpark too?
Yeah, and I'm really hoping the show picks up.
And once again, this is all based off one episode, so there's always those weird things like that.
I know. I feel like I'm being so nitpicky. I guess it's really just things like, I guess, and plus Barbara Gordon, she's some like, bombshell wife who's like a art school, not art school, but she's like some.
But it's almost at the point, like, why would Jim Gordon? I will say this: if he has a wife like that, why would he be working as a cop? You know what I mean? Like. The whole point of Jim Gordon working as a cop.
And they got to enforce it. Don't get me wrong. Both those girls are beautiful, and I like to see that scene. But implying that Montoya and Barbara were at one point a couple, you got to add in this unnecessary love triangle bullshit.
They always do that weird bullshit. It's kind of like they did that. I remember, like, this is one of the reasons I kind of stopped watching Walking Dead in the first handful of episodes. They did that, like, blatantly right in the very first one or two episodes. I guess, yeah, somewhere in there. I was like, that's fucking stupid. It's just like they have to. It's that kind of thing on television. Television always has to have more sexiness to it, and that's like they always got to kind of add in weird love triangles and shit that's like not necessary. But I'm going back to Jim Gordon though. The whole point is because like if his wife is an artist who's making all kinds of this money, why would he be working the shittiest job in America as being a Gotham cop? Because that's the whole point of Gotham. It's like the worst town in the world to work in. Yeah. Obviously, he would be doing something else. She would either hire him as like, well, why don't you
work security?
Yeah, work security at my art show. The whole point is that Jim Gordon's like, I work as a cop because that's what I know. It's I wish I could do something else, but this is what I know, and I got to do the good thing. This is how we're gonna just make a life. I don't want to do this, but I had to take this job.
Hopefully, I'll say this. Hopefully, maybe this chick dies, gets brutally murdered, and he just happens to meet another woman named Barbara. Yeah. Just another Barbara. He just got a thing for Barbaras.
It's just character-wise, it seems illogical. And I don't know. Once again, it seems nitpicky and strange, but I don't know. Once again, all based off one episode. But I just, it's one of those ones I've always learned of TV is TV that a lot of times doesn't shock me where like 2 episodes down the line, they just completely like 180 it and start going this other direction. TV show, mostly they establish it, and it almost will take an entire season for them to start going in another direction. It's like turning like an aircraft carrier. It's not like you have your fishing boat where you can just whip left and right. It like whenever you feel like it, you really have to plan that out. So yeah. I do have a feeling that it's just going to be a cop show. Hopefully they'll focus more on Bruce Wayne, because I think the Bruce Wayne and Alfred stuff might be where the show is really good at, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be cool just to see Bruce Wayne doing all this training as a kid. Like, maybe he's reading books and he's just like, okay, I'm going to go out and attempt this. And maybe even he does some crime fighting where, like, he kind of, like in Mask of the Phantasm, where, like, Bruce Wayne puts on, like, just kind of like a regular, like, outfit.
Ski mask,
like sweatshirt and, black clothes. Maybe, like, we have Bruce Wayne doing that, and he's out there, and then he can run into Catwoman that way and whatnot.
What if at some point we there's, like, some drug cartel coming to town. They got like a enforcer, happens to be a young guy, a young young bodybuilder named Bane. By the end of it, they imply they got this new drug called Venom.
Yeah, see, there's so many things you can do, and hopefully they do it, because once again, all based off the first episode. I just hope that it doesn't. I just hope it's just we're not watching CSI and Law and Order.
It didn't feel so much like that. I mean, it still felt a little different than that, but it still felt like it was like, all right. Visually, it looked different than that. It looked like it was a very visually, it was an interesting show. Had a good production value.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more enforcing the love triangle, kind of like just throwing hints and winks at like, here's Riddler, wink. Does he have any points at least this episode? Does he have any importance? No. Moving on.
Well, I think all those characters will be in there because if you've ever seen it in the ads, like in
But like everything I saw was out of the pilot. Everything I saw was in the pilot.
Because they kind of show all 8 characters. They always kind of focus on, I think it's like Riddler, Penguin, Batman, or Bruce Wayne, Jim Gordon, Harvey Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Ivy's in there.
The
fish woman.
Which I'm pretty sure she's a made-up character.
I mean, I'm not too sure. Like, the last name sounds familiar, but not the first name. Mm-hmm. I just feel like this.
Carmine Falcone was there.
Yeah, Carmine Falcone, which was cool. So, I mean, like, it looks like, okay, I will say this. For a first episode, at least it's a start. It just, as long as it just doesn't stay there, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm kind of like, it seems kind of like what we're doing is a kid just got on a bicycle and just tried to ride just a few, he made it a few feet, then fell over. And the dad ran over, what the fuck's wrong with you, you fucking pussy? You know, it almost seems like we're kind of doing that.
Yeah, it takes a couple tries, and we're already over there kicking him while he's on the ground, telling him that.
Yeah. Get up, don't fucking cry. It's like it almost feels like we're doing that. So we should probably just shut the fuck up and just give it like a few more episodes before. Yeah. So I guess this is going to be at least, if we got nothing else to talk about each week, we can just kick Gotham while it's down.
Yeah, we can just kick Gotham each week. Well, here's the thing.
If we ever run out of shit to talk about, like, all right, well, let's kick Gotham in the balls for at least 20 minutes.
Well, here's the thing too: is Flash and Arrow's coming up in about a week or two. So what you should do is you should fucking movie marathon it with Arrow and catch up, because I kid you not, I think you'll really actually get into Arrow as far as a TV show goes. I mean, once again, you always got to sort of take this thing and go, it's not the animated show, but Arrow, it does. You know, as I say, the first season you got to kind of, it tiptoes a bit, but it's as far as a show, it's still pretty good. I mean, there's always those handful of CW moments mainly in it, and then the characters you end up not liking, it's okay because they all get killed off.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then really by season 2 you start ending up with all the characters you want, and by season 3 they kill off all the characters that actually don't exist in Green Arrow in the first place.
That's awesome. No, I like what you said. You said, like, no, there's this one stupid character named Billy who's his best friend. They try to make it sad, but he dies. It's fucking awesome. Anyway, moving like you just said.
Oh my god. Like, yeah, they do. They literally have, his name's not, it's something like Billy. It's Tommy. That's what it is.
Tommy.
And he's one of those characters, he's literally plugged in there to be Merlin's son. And that's like his only connection to like the comics. Even though I don't think Merlin has a son, but like that's like where his connection to the show is.
I thought Merlin was gay, but okay.
Yeah, well, he could be still. But
that's not me saying I thought he was fucking gay. That's not me saying that I literally thought the character was gay. I think I heard something about that. But go ahead, yeah.
I gotta say this quickly. Speaking of like gay and fag, this sounds really weird. I was looking up bearings for that project I was doing, you know, car bearings and like, you know, machine bearings. There was literally a bearing company called Fag.
Really?
This must be in like some other country. That's all I have to say. But like, I could not stop laughing.
Called Fag.
But that's not the whole point. Okay,
awesome.
Back to Tommy, other fags. Like, literally, this character, you're like, it's the stupidest fucking character. And then he dies, and I was like, oh my god, that's fucking amazing. That was a great fucking... And then, like, they kind of, like, they as season 2 goes on, they erase out sort of all the other characters so that you kind of end up with just, like, the regular Green Arrow characters. So season 3 should just be full-on amazing, pretty much. But you should catch up on that, and then, like, that'll give us, like, we can combine it with Gotham, Flash, and Arrow, and just kind of be able to talk about all that stuff. I don't know, fucking something else. We can always add into, like, the end of the podcast. We're like, well, what else did you do? I don't know. Well, did you see that episode 3 of Gotham? Yeah, let's kick it in the balls.
Well, I know what we could almost do, if need be? We could almost just start up a second podcast. DC on the TV. Just call it that, and just where we cover
I think that's
Gotham, Arrow, and Flash. No promises. I got to get caught up first, but 2 podcasts just talk about DC TV shows weekly.
Not a bad idea. I'm all down for it. So that might be.
I got to get caught up first.
Yeah,
we might have a second podcast. Build a network out of this shit.
If I had,
I was talking about having a second show over here where I just bullshit with somebody because I didn't think we'd be able to do Old Man Orange over Skype, but that still might happen. But at least, hey, have a second show where we just continue talk. It's just DC only, DC on the TV. Yeah,
we'll think about that. We'll probably start with a combination of just like both things, and if we get to a point where like we got so much shit to talk about, we'll just have multiple episodes.
Maybe. Well, we had no promises, but just a little idea could happen. We'll see what happens.
As I said, watch Arrow. It is literally the best DC show that's not a cartoon. Which that's not saying much because it's like that's out of like 3 shows. But
that's out of like
Smallville.
That's out of the 66 Batman. 66 Batman.
Gotham.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
I want to say in the like 70s or 80s, there's a short-lived Shazam show.
Huh. I did not know about that.
I want to say short-lived Flash. And also a short-lived Flash show.
Then there's like the pilot. Well, then you got the Wonder Woman show, I guess, too. The Linda
Wonder Woman
Carter.
show.
And then you got
the Wonder Woman pilot produced by David E. Kelly, which didn't go nowhere.
Yeah, and then you also got the Aquaman pilot, which the Aquaman pilot's actually pretty good for what it is. I thought it was pretty good. I think it was Aquaman. It was just hard to sell.
Yeah. I know they have the song from Trusting Co. for the theme song of that show. Just like, oh, wow, this... You're really, like, WBing the fuck up for this show, aren't you?
That's the only way to do it.
Push inside just to find another part of me.
WB. But yeah. Well, that's a good place. Like, I feel if we continue on, we're just going to keep kicking Gotham while it's on the ground and helpless and defenseless. Like,
get up, you fucking pussy!
I've made more episodes. You just have to wait till next week.
Just shaking it by the collar. Fuck you.
Give me the FXX version.
We'll see what happens.
But, yeah, till then, make sure to check out OldManOrange.com. And then, till next time, we'll figure out what Gotham episode 2 and... Yeah, we'll just go from there.
Hopefully other things happen in our life aside from Gotham.
Yeah, hopefully.
What else happened to you? Nothing but Gotham.
But guess what? I saw Gotham episode 2. And guess what they did not do in this one?
This should take about 2 hours. Even though the episode's only 45 minutes.
Nitpicking like a 10-second scene. I notice in life there's very few things we nitpick.
Show takes up to what?
I notice in life there's very few things we nitpick unless it involves Batman in live action mostly.
But it could have been, yeah. All right, well, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange Podcast. Check out our website at OldManOrange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at OldManOrangePodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.